Hello, this is Shalimar Steinberg, and today we'll be talking about the rules for the parking lot assignment, Part 1. And remember that for this part of the assignment, we will simply be drawing the outline of the parking spot. And we've got some information available and a document which gives us the standards for accessible parking that we'll be using for our accessible parking space. There will be a total of 5 parking spaces, 1 accessible with an aisle attached, and then 4 standard spots attached as well. Each spot will be 9 feet wide, and there are 4-inch marking lines, and that 9 feet is center to center of the marking lines. And then each spot will be 17 feet deep, including that 4-inch marking line at the front if there is one, or the curb can be used as the marking line as well. The second thing that we'll be doing is adding attribute and blocks for signage to this drawing next week, so we'll turn it in at that point. Alright, so just as a quick look at the requirements for basic, for the standard, or the accessible parking spot. And so this is the standard from the Oregon Department of Transportation. And it says that all accessible spaces need to be 9 foot wide with an adjacent access aisle at least 6 feet wide, or 8 feet wide if it is a van accessible space or reserved for wheelchair users only. When you have one single accessible parking space, it should always be van accessible, so we will be using the 8 foot wide aisle. And then the access aisle should be on the passenger side of the parking space unless there's 2 adjacent spaces sharing, in which case the farthest right one could have driver's side access. There are going to be markings which we'll be looking at when we do our signage next week. And then we have an example of some of the basics of that type of drawing, which is here on page 6 of the contract. And it says that we need that 9-inch wide space, and it doesn't say the 17 deep feet, but that's how far I told you to do. We have our aisle, and the lines in this for the no parking section are also going to be 4-inch wide. They'll be 2 feet apart, starting at the bottom of each square here, or I suppose if you're looking at it the other way, at the top of each 4-inch line that's diagonal. And the angle for those will be the 36-degree angle from this side here. You don't have to have the exact same number, but it should come out pretty similar if you're using the same spacing and everything. Then we have a ramp here, which is going up. This is a curb, and the curb is actually 6 inches deep. And then the ramp must end where the curb ends. And we're going to put it about halfway through our sidewalk. And our sidewalk is going to be about 8 feet deep. And that's so that 2 wheelchairs could pass side by side if they needed to. And also to give enough space for the drop down from the sidewalk down onto the curb. So that's the idea for the minimum spacings. And let's go ahead and start making the basics of the drawing. And if we look at our AutoCAD, I have opened a PS-AB drawing so that I have my title blocks already in place. And I'm going to be drawing on my object line layer for most of this. And I'm going to go ahead and do my lines as polylines so that I can give them a width. But you also have the option of going ahead and doing lines and then doing one line and offsetting it, or using multi-lines to get the 4-inch width. You would just need to do a solid fill from the hatching screen. So if I'm going to do a polyline, I will click here. I'm going to specify my starting point, and I will specify at the bottom of one of the stalls here. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to choose W for width and hit enter. And then I'm going to say that the width should be 4 inches. Oh, actually, before I do this, I need to change over my units and make sure that they are architectural. So I go to Drawing Units and Units, and they're decimal right now, so I'm going to set it to architectural, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to a 1/4 inch precision. It's not really that important for this assignment because we're going to be using whole inches pretty much the whole way. going to say OK. Now I can go ahead and do my polyline. Oops. Here we go. And starting point here, and then my W for width, and 4 inches. Because I'm in architectural, it is assuming that I'm doing inches unless I type the foot sign, so I can just say 4, or I can put the inch sign after it if I want to. And I'm going to go like this, and then I need to do the same thing for the ending width so that the line stays the same thickness all the way through. And there we go, and then I can go ahead and start my line. And I'm going to go up, and I said that I wanted it to be 17 feet. So I will go up 17 feet. And here I do need to draw the foot sign because it assumes inches again, as I said. And there is my line. And you'll notice that I'm zoomed out far enough that that line is looking kind of skinny, so I can zoom in a little bit so that I can see it more accurately. Then I can go ahead and I can do another one spaced over this way. Or I can just offset the current line. So I'm going to use the offset command here. And I'm going to specify my distance as 9 feet. Again, I'm going to use that foot symbol. And then I specify the line that I want to do, and over to the side, and it does a line right there. Then I'm going to end the offset command and start it again because I want to do one that's another 8 feet over for the aisle space. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell it a distance of 8 feet and enter. And I'm going to select my object. And I'm right here. And then I can do my 9 feet for the next space. And, offset again. And 9 feet. And this line, this direction, and that creates one more space that I'm going to do it again with this line and this direction. That's 2 spaces, 3 spaces once I click this one correctly. I need to move over a little bit here. There we go. 3 spaces. And one more gives me 4 spaces. Now I'm going to go ahead and enter in order to end the offset command. And now I can go ahead and I can do one more polyline all the way across, and it maintains my width currently, but this time I actually want to specify my starting point here, and this time I'm going to be doing the curb instead of just a white line which is drawn. So for this one, I actually am going to go back to the line instead of the polyline because I want to be able to use a cement fill if I feel like it. And so I'm going to go over here to the end point and just draw straight over to the end here. And then I'm going to offset that line. And I'm going to specify 6 inches this time, so not the foot sign, but the inch sign. And choose this object to offset and up above. And then I can close that down to here. And I can put in another one, the 8 feet above it, for the other edge of my sidewalk area. And I'm going to have to edit in here where I want my path to go. So I'll be trimming out a section once I've drawn the lines through it where I want my ramp to go. So I will go ahead with the offset there, and I said 8 feet. And this line here. There we go. And I'm going to then draw in my ramp about halfway up, I said, and it'll go, if we look at the example, covering that aisle, and then just a little bit out on either side of it. Just kind of estimate a few inches on either side of the aisle there. It cannot, however, extend this direction. It has to end within the curve. That's one of the standard rules. Now we can go ahead and look at doing those diagonal lines. There we go. And so we need to put the diagonal lines in here for our aisle, and we're actually going to close that one off as well. So I'm going to do the polyline again, and I'm going to go ahead and specify this point to this point. And hit enter there. And actually I need to stretch that out just a little bit more, so I'm going to grab that and then just bring the edge over to the endpoint here. And here. Okay. And then if we look at our example again really quickly, you can see, okay, so that's correct there, and then we'll need to trim out some parts as we go through. Actually, with the polyline, we probably won't end up needing to trim out because it will be pretty obvious. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in a line, and I'm going to go ahead and start it, say, about here. Or I could do, say, the midpoint, whichever spot kind of I want to. And I'm going to do it just as a construction line to give me the spacing that I need. And so I'm going to go ahead and come in on this one, let's say about here. And then I'm going to go this direction, and I'm just going to carry it through. And I'm going to tab over and type 36 degrees because that is the amount that we need it to be for the correct angle. And then I can go back into my polyline, and I can start it over here and take it right over to here. And then I can offset it. And I know that it's supposed to be, if I look at the example, 2 feet apart. So I'm going to go ahead and do that 2 feet in between. And so we'll go ahead and say 2 feet on this one in this direction. Oops, I picked the smaller line there. I need to undo that one. And I'm actually going to first remove my construction line there to get rid of it, and then I can offset without accidentally picking that one. And then again with that one, and again with that one, and again with that one, once again with that one. And then what I'll do is just end there for a second, go ahead and grab each of these and drag them across to meet up at the other edge. And you have to be able to see it turn blue like that in order to get the grip. Just make sure that it's still at the 36 degrees. Offsetting there. There we go. And okay, and then I can keep offsetting that same distance, the 2 feet. And do this one up. And there we go. Then we can go ahead and use, let's see if we can do the trim command. Generally, it works on polylines now as well, although it might have a little bit of trouble with the corner there. We might have to do something there to change it a little bit. And then we can do each of these sections. And extend this one all the way out. This one can just be erased. And this one. And then we can just move that one back until it lines up. And then you'd have to draw in a little triangle and fill it with a solid white fill, just to fill up that space. And once you've drawn in your ramp, you can close this off and fill this area with the cement hatch and your little area here and the ramp as well. And then you're going to go ahead and put it into your B-Space template. And you probably need to scale it down just a little bit to get it to fit well. Let's see. It's a little too small. And that looks about right. So we'll be doing this drawing at about 1/4 inch equals a foot. Alright, that is the basic start of this assignment. And actually it looks like you could offset this one more time down here in order to fit in another little piece in this corner. And we'll be adding the rest of our signage next week in class. Thank you very much.